Hello and welcome to yet another episode of the Extreme Exchange. This time it's the beginning of season 3. Not sure when the other episodes are going to come, but yeah, for now you can enjoy this first episode. Today I'm talking with a good friend, Joshua Wee. In the army context, he is Second Lieutenant Joshua Wee. And the reason I'm talking to him today is because, well, we both went through about 3 months worth of, I would say, in an instructor experience where we got to teach the Air Force officer cadets. And I think it's safe to say it was a pretty good experience for the both of us. And I'm here today to talk about a pretty interesting topic that I would like him to weigh on because we were both there when it happened. So yeah, Joshua, you want to say hi?
Yeah, hi. Now I'm famous. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, just to give a brief context. We just finished the cadets SUMEX, which is the summary exercise of the whole thing, and I wanted to reflect on something that happened. So, but before we get into that, I want to ask you, I mean, what are your general thoughts about how SUMEX went?
Well, I thought it was pretty intense for an average Air Force summit, especially. It's pretty legit. But I guess that's mainly because this time around the cadets were also pretty legit, and they knew what they were doing, and so we pushed them off. So yeah, I think summits was pretty fun, but mostly for us lah.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely different on the instructor side, being at least more in control lah, not the one facing the floor most of the time.
Yeah.
I mean, I must say I agree with you when we say that they had a much tougher experience than what we had when we were cadets, mainly because we decided to push them a lot harder because they were actually an UPS course. So wanted to see how far they could go lah, and then we made life a bit more difficult for them. We screamed at them a little bit more, see how they would react in those situations. Yeah. Okay, so to get to it, I mean, the thing that really caught my attention during SUMEX, right, was it was kind of the fact that the instructors were okay, and I hope the cadets don't hear this, or rather, they hear this after they commission. Anyway, I noticed that they were deliberately trying to criticize the way they did things, or at least put them down lah, in a way that was intentionally discouraging, so as to train them and build up their character lah. And I just felt like that. I mean, I didn't really know how to feel about it because I was a bit uncomfortable with being untruthful as to how well they were performing. But at the same time, I acknowledged the benefits of putting them down temporarily so that they push themselves. Yeah. So I mean, do you notice the same thing, or it's just me?
Yeah, definitely. No, the first time I noticed it was when they gathered, when commanders, all the fire unit commanders and the detachment commanders together, and then he basically just destroyed them, like shouted at them, like, "Are you sure you can do this during your SUMEX? You know, what these standards?" And I was quite taken aback because I genuinely thought that all of them had done a pretty decent job, you know, of the first mission, and so I approached the captain like privately after the destroying, and I asked him, like, you know, what actually did y'all scold them for? I thought it was pretty legit, and he replied with the most like odd answer like I've ever heard. He said, "Yeah, it's true. They really didn't do very much wrong, but sometimes as an instructor, you gotta paint a picture and tell a story, you know, that they are messed up, you know, and they don't know what they're doing, because what we're training here is not just their air defense ops, which is true. The air defense ops were very solid and they were competent, but also their officership, you know, how much they can handle the pressure and take all that destroying and the beating, and how much they can still stand up in the face of all that stress." And I in that moment I thought it made sense, you know. I thought it made sense. So yeah, I've definitely seen that, and I was convinced, but at the same time a little bit conflicted lah, like you said.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, part of the reason why it makes sense, and the part of the reason why I also agree that sometimes it's such an approach has its value lah, is because the normal way that you facilitate character development is you put people through tough times. And so like let's say for infantry, for example, you would put them on like a really long route march or many days in the jungle.
Yeah.
Right. And then so these tough times include opportunities for failure, because if there's no opportunity for failure, then it's not a tough time because there's no stress. But with that stress and failure also comes potential for growth and humility lah. And then this also like has an element of camaraderie with it. Like it promotes camaraderie among comrades, and then it pushes you to your limits and helps you to reach your potential. And then and I think this is a very well-known concept, and it's almost essential in a part of human development, which is having to go through suffering in order to grow. Yeah, but the question like it becomes murky when you have to manufacture this sense of failure, because
Yeah.
right, like in the name of character development, would you lie to somebody by saying that they're trash, they're horrible, they just suck, so that they would in response rise up from this like this level that they're not even at, and then push themselves, yeah.
Yeah. No, I think that's true. Like there's a very clear distinction. Okay, not very clear distinction actually. You're right. It's quite murky because there are times when it is can very obviously feel manufactured. Like when they give AOP, like the presentation, and then the instructors just find like tiniest of things to pick at. And the one thing I hated was whenever the instructors would say, "You show this one simulated." The whole stupid partially simulated. Thing that people always just pick on, and it was just so dumb. And that's the time when I think it's very clear that it was just manufactured and didn't really make any sense to me, especially for our course like our AOP with. I mean, that was clearly really, really dumb. He's just intentionally just trying to find things to pick on us for. But then there are times when when it seems more legit. And I guess that comes down to, as an instructor, what's your level of competency, how you're able to. Well, I suppose paint the picture, but paint it well, such that it doesn't seem like you're just trying to pick on stupid small things. But I see the intention behind it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think picking on small things, the intention is just to see how you would react. But at the same time, like if it's a really unreasonable thing to react to, then you can't expect them to give a coherent answer, because I mean,
Exactly,
it was so insignificant. Yeah, and I mean, the thing that Captain does also with giving you a really unrealistic scenario to see how you react, and then like I mean, it's a lose-lose situation, because no matter what answer you give, it's always just a like if you respond, there's always something wrong with your response, so there's always something to rebut you with, and you just be like, oh yeah, shit, that's choice.
Kind of this whole game also, right?
I don't know if it's intentional. That's the thing.
That's kind of. Oh, that's true.
Yeah,
but he just happens to blow it up,
Correct. It's like yeah. I can't tell if it's intentional, because it seems so second nature to them that it's almost like they really believe it themselves. Like they actually believe that this scenario is the right thing to pose to them, and whatever response they give is actually wrong. Likewise with I mean, putting them down about how bad they are. I can't tell if they actually believe that they're bad, because it just seems so real to me. Yeah.
No, but if you think about it, right, I think they do think that they're bad. I think it works in a certain way that they don't get the affirmation, and maybe they don't take the negative stuff to heart, but they definitely don't get the affirmation. And that's why when we sat together at the end of the course, we told them that they were really ups. There were people that were genuinely surprised.
Yeah, correct.
Like super genuinely surprised.
Yeah, they were like, wait, what? Nah, man. What? Yeah, so yeah, so I mean, I wanted to also explore like the drawbacks of such an approach, because if all goes well and it's an ideal situation and the people are positive enough to respond the correct way, then they would push themselves further and give their best, or rather do better lah. But it's also the case that you could completely demoralize them to the point of giving up. Like if they were originally doing their best and they saw that they were doing their best, and they thought that they were doing well objectively, and then the instructors just kept on saying, you guys are useless, you know, you don't help each other, you're so bad. And then, I mean, the a possible response to that would just be, well, I mean, then I must just never be good enough, and then they'll just give up.
Yeah.
They'll be like, nah, then what's the point of trying if I'm just gonna, if I'm always just a failure, you know? Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's a drawback when themselves and then they see themselves as trash. But I think the bigger drawback is when the cadets look at the instructors and see the instructors as trash because they have enough confidence in their own actions to doubt the words of the instructor. And really comes down to that dynamic between the cadets and the instructor. Like if I was in army, right, I remember being back in CLM in the first 2 weeks, anything that any of the captains said was just gospel truth. You know, like whatever they said about you, you were just trash or you didn't know what you were doing. And they had that ability to completely humiliate you, and they had the ability to just sound right. Probably because we had so much respect for them, and we didn't know like what comparative standards we were holding. So for that, that seems super legit. Whereas over here, you know, the tables might turn, and then especially for us, and we ended the course having like close to zero respect for that guy.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, so I think that's one of the bigger drawbacks that I feel is a bigger problem than the cadets looking at themselves and having a low self-esteem, you know?
Yeah, that's true. I think, I mean, my mindset at first was purely from the perspective of the benefit of the cadets. But when you think about, I guess, the instructor's point of view, like the instructor's front, yeah, if it's not well executed, it really does look quite bad on them, because then it just looks like they're just bullshitting everything.
Exactly.
Yeah, and then, I mean, loss of confidence in your commander is always a bad thing, because then, I mean, when you no longer respect your teacher, that's like, wow, then you've kind of lost your role model in some sense.
Yeah.
I mean, it reminds me of like, wait, are you a Star Wars person? No.
I think I would know.
Oh,
You can
okay.
try me.
I mean, the whole Sith thing is that they usually kill their master, like the apprentice kills the master, and I mean, it just reminds me of the fact that, I mean, given that the Sith represent all that is evil, then in some sense, the evil path is to think that you're more superior than your superior, and then in some sense kill him. Metaphorically,
that's a really weird analogy, but okay.
I mean, metaphorically, killing your master is just getting rid of him as a role model, because you no longer see him as beneficial to you or even competent.
Yeah.
So, okay, weird analogy, but an analogy nonetheless. I mean, I'm trying to think about what else could be wrong with such an approach, because I mean, there's just something about me that doesn't want to lie to people. Like even if the ends justify the means, like it just feels like the means are too corrupt or too underhanded, such that they shouldn't be used. I mean,
I get what you mean.
Even if it's for character development, is lying an ethical way to go about it? Like,
yeah, there's definitely that part of it that once you introduce that so-called lie, right, to tell the cadets that they're worse than what they actually are, to tell anybody they're worse than they actually are, it kind of creates a sense that the absolute truth is now skewed to one side, that you can never really trust like the person's words anymore. You know, because I mean, that's in the scenario that you can tell it's an obvious lie, and I guess it hurts the cadets, like in their perception of what actually is a good standard, you know, or a bad standard. So that's one thing, and of course the other thing is the ethical part of it, like how can you just completely twist the facts, and it's so counterintuitive that you would put them down for them to rise up, you know. I mean, of course there's that that's kind of how it is in the world. If you put somebody through the dirt, then they will come up stronger. But the question is if that's actually true lah. And yeah.
Yeah, I mean, to add to the first thing that you said, right? I realize not only does it like reduce your trust in the reality that the instructors paint for you, it could even affect your perception of any instructors, like past, present, or future, like what their criticism is of you. Because I think from I mean, me having the privilege of going through this kind of training early on, it made me a bit more, I would say, aware of such tactics, as in aware of the tactics that people can use to train people in this way lah. And one of the cynical things that I used to think was that no matter what, the instructors would always say that you are bad, that you are I don't know, incompetent or not up to standard, as a way of developing your character lah. And then in some sense I would become very cynical of any advice that they would give at all, because I would just think it's fake.
Yeah.
I would just say like, yeah, well, no matter what, he's just gonna say this lah, and I mean, this is his job. But at the same time, I've lost a bit of trust and in some sense innocence when it comes to learning in this way, because now if I'm actually bad, I wouldn't take it seriously. I'll just take it with a pinch of salt. And then, like you said lah, you would never know what the right standard is anymore. And then I would just think everything is everything is all fake lah.
It's a lie.
Yeah, everything's a lie. Yeah.
But how did it work on you? Like, I mean, you said that you've been through that
Yeah, I mean,
before. How does it actually help? Does it actually work?
And
Push you up?
yeah, I mean, it did at the start when I was young, when I had to go through all this. I was so serious about it. I was like, damn, I really got to help my friends, and like, we're really damn bad. And but yeah, I mean, it's for me, it worked like a charm, because I was quite I would say that I'm quite an obedient person, as in like, if somebody tell me if an authority scolded me and told me to do something, I would just shut up and do it. Yeah, so that's why it worked on me last time. But I realized that, I mean, now that you asked me, after a while, I tried my best to take a look at things more objectively. As in, like, I took a look at really, were we meeting the standards? Were we meeting the timings? Were they unreasonable timings that they were giving us? And yeah, is it grounded in reality what they were saying? And then based off of that, I would make my analysis of whether I actually needed to buck up and improve lah. And I guess that's
a good point. Yeah, because one thing that's really important is, like you mentioned, the standards. You know, like that's why for me, whenever I want to give them shit or tell them that they're not matching up to the standard, I would quote like how we do in unit, and for me that would be the standard for them to meet. Whereas if it was just an arbitrary thing, like if it was you could be faster, you could be better, you could be stronger, you could deploy sooner. It's so arbitrary that it doesn't really seem to have any positive effect. Whereas if you compare it to an actual standard, and if especially if you're the one who's giving the criticism, comparing it to a standard rather than receiving the criticism and comparing it, I think it makes a big difference. The fact that there's actually a standard that's there. Like for us at the start of army, right, there was no standard. Like we had no clue. So everything that we just took the shit, because that would become our standard. You know, the standard of every day you just go down and then you get destroyed by the instructors. So that was the standard. Whereas like currently, you know, it's the standard is quite low. For like this kind of course, they're really so ups. Yeah, so there's always a standard to come up to. And another thing that you mentioned was, for yourself, you know, you were the kind of guy that was obedient. I think it really comes down to personality, you know. Like if you were or any person that would have some kind of self-worth, they would think twice about any criticism that comes their way. And it might not work well at all. In fact, they would just take it completely negatively. Whereas if you're somebody that really, really wants to hear other people's opinions, then maybe it will work a bit better. So I guess it depends on which which side or which part of the spectrum you're on.
And I mean, I guess this spectrum is the teachability spectrum because
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I think, I mean, that's why humility is such an important value, lah. Because with humility means that you're willing to learn and to recognize the areas that you're not so proficient in. So you'll be more receptive to criticism and things like that. Whereas if you're more hard-headed and stubborn and prideful, then you would just be like, no, nope, I'm good.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I mean, I want to go back to what you said about the standard because, like for things like, okay, like for things like force prep and camo on, camo off, right? Like, I mean, I've had experience doing this with my primers, almost like 2 months ago, like during one of the camps, and oftentimes I would give a timing, but I would give a timing that was reasonable, so that if they didn't meet it, I would have every reason to scold them. So like, let's say I told them to run from one place to another. If I personally felt like I could run from there to there in 2 minutes, I would give them 2 minutes. And then if they don't meet the 2 minutes, I mean, it's perfectly reasonable to say, well, that's a reasonable standard and you didn't make it, therefore I'm going to punish you for it. But the drawback with that was that they almost always made the timings. And then when they met the timings, I'd just be like, oh, good job, I guess. And then that's not a training camp because I would spend all the time just going, yep, you're good. And then, I don't know, maybe like reaffirming the fact that they were good when in fact they really weren't. So like this comes to like the camo on, camo off timing, because realistically speaking, 1 minute camo on is just insane. Like it's literally impossible. And I mean, the fact that they want to inspect after that just adds to that lah. So like, if you are given an actually impossible timing, how can you bring yourself to scold people for not making the timing? It just seems incredulous to me. And yet at the same time, you take a look at how they respond to this 1 minute timing, and they just go at it as if it really is possible. And I mean, I would too. I would still give my 100% to try and meet the timing that I know is impossible. Which kind of, it's quite an awesome phenomenon, at least from my observation. It just seems like even though we can be aware that it's an impossible task, we would still do our best because at least in some level we recognize the benefits of pushing yourself to see how far you can go. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think I have an excellent example that illustrates this, which is, remember during Air Wing in service term, remember there was this whole thing about the 1 minute everything in, everything out?
Yeah.
All the jungle survival training. Yeah, I remember we started out going like, okay, yeah, 1 minute in, 1 minute out, shouldn't be hard, right? Just spread our ground sheet and then just eat everything out of the bag and then arrange it,
Yeah.
And to us from the start, like, previous courses have done it, and that's what we tried. And I remember doing this like twice, like on 2 separate occasions. One was outside Air Wing, then the other one was at some training shed, if you remember.
Yeah, I remember.
And it was at the training shed, right, that timed us. And as hard as we could, we just could not meet the timing. And at the start, it seemed completely reasonable. We were like, okay, let's go, we just try our best. And then when we failed and we busted the timing, we were still okay. We were like, okay, we'll do this, we'll do this arrangement, and we ironed out things together as a course. And then we went at it again, and then we realized it was still impossible. And after a while, right, we began to completely doubt the fact that it was possible at all.
It was like the 30
and then we just like
deployment.
Yeah, exactly. And we just looked around at each other and we were like, there's no way, bro. And so after a while, even began to give up. And we completely like doubted the fact that it was possible after that, and we just didn't give a single shit. Whereas I think it comes down to how much you put faith in the cadets that they can do it. If you can follow me, like for example, right, put a lot of faith in us in the sense that he kept telling us it's possible, you can do it, you just keep trying. Whereas with he gave up within 3 attempts, and we were just like, this guy is bullshitting. There's no way he's ever seen anybody do a 1 minute force prep. So there's a limit to how you do it, and there's a point to how well you execute that pushing of standards too. Because although it seems ethically wrong, I cannot say that it doesn't work well.
Yeah.
You know, and
Yeah.
I do think I do think to a certain extent it's a valid strategy. It's just how harsh you want to be, and yet how well you want to play it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very true. I mean, well, I like, you can think about it this way. If I mean, if the standard was a 2 minute camo on, for example, right? And we didn't make it the first time. We did a 2 minute 15 seconds camo on, and we push and push and push. And in the second try, we get 2 minutes. We would just be like, yeah, we got 2 minutes. That's great. We met a good standard. But if it was a 1 minute timing, even though it was impossible, we would somehow find a way to do it in 1 minute and 45 seconds or something. And that's evidence enough that,
Yeah, I see what you mean.
yeah, it's evidence enough that even though it's an unrealistic goal, the fact that it's unrealistic pushes you beyond what you would normally have done. And that is, I think that's one of the most um, stunning things about, like, us humans, at least, like how we can push beyond what we perceive to be possible. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's something that
Yeah,
it's something that Metten has told me before, which he said everybody can run 1 minute faster than their actual 2.4 timing. Like, no matter what. Which is like, I mean, it may not be 1 minute, but it's a certain significant amount faster. And he just says you just have to be running for your life. Then you would run that amount longer. Yeah, you know. I think it's true, though.
yeah. I guess that's the question about unreasonable timings and unreasonable standards that that people set. And I think the difference lies the difference in an effective unreasonable timing and an ineffective unreasonable timing is how far you push it or how far you play it. You know, there are people that would set that unreasonable timing and then just hammer it home and keep using that unreasonable timing to make you feel like you are a complete failure. Whereas there are those people that would use the unreasonable timing to encourage you and push you until you're like almost there but not there, and then they'll be like, okay, that's fine. You don't have to hit it, but just know that it's possible. And for the rest of your life, you will forever be pushing yourself, but you won't feel that kind of crippling defeat because it's not like the guy destroyed you for not meeting it. It's just that he managed to cut it off somewhere while keeping that timing, at a high standard that you would forever be wanting to push yourself to meet. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. Well, yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I began this conversation just to figure out what exactly is a good approach to character development in this way, which is the pushing of people to their limits. Yeah, I mean, on the one hand, you can actually make it a difficult task, which is kind of what Army does. But on the other hand, you can play a somewhat psychological warfare, which is to psych them into thinking that they are going through something difficult, or at least not making an arbitrary standard, which pushes them further. I mean, the main question at the end of the day for me is there a better way, or is this one of the, or is this the only, if not the best way to go about doing this? Yeah.
Well, I think the best way is a progressive thing, where you don't define the ridiculous number at the start. You just decrease the timing as you go. Like if I was in BMT, right, and it was my first force prep, and somebody told me that I could do a 1 minute everything out, I would do it, and I would do it within like 5 minutes, and I would look at that timing and think that it's so stupid and so impossible. Whereas if somebody told me that, timing is 4 minutes 30 seconds, then I'll be like, okay lah, I'm almost there. And then when I hit that timing, it would just get harder and harder for me, and I would just keep pushing myself. And I don't think I would burn out, I think burnout happens when you have that impossible task and you just keep hammering home and you don't hit it. But if you have these bite-sized achievements along the way, then I think that's what makes it more reasonable, especially from my point of view as an instructor, giving them like affirmation like, okay, you failed a bit, but you got this, and you know that's probably to me the most ethical way of giving an unreasonable time that they're. To be fair, that in that moment they're never going to hit, but they're going to get there eventually.
Right, and to add that, actually, it could be more efficient as well, because let's say you have to cut by 30 seconds, right? You would pick one small area, or at least one aspect of your, let's say your force prep, like your everything out, and try to refine it. So you would say like, let me figure out like a better arrangement, or a better way to take out everything from it. So then you would say, okay, instead of using one hand to take things out of the bag, I'm just gonna invert the bag and throw everything out. So then you would refine it by 30 seconds, and then once you push, then you say, okay, let me push you to 4 minutes instead. And then now with this 30 seconds that I now need to cut, I'll pick a different aspect. So I'll say like, okay, after everything is out, let me arrange the things from like, I don't know, biggest to smallest, for example. I mean, I don't know, easiest to grab, I don't know. And then that would shave you for 30 seconds. And then you do this like 5 times, and then you would have refined every aspect of the force prep, and you would have hit the seemingly ridiculous number before. But if you gave the 1 minute at the start, then you wouldn't know where to start. You'd just be like, what? I have to shave off 4 minutes, and how am I supposed to do that? And then, it could end up becoming quite crippling and not as efficient. As it could have been.
It's a big difference. It's a big difference.
I mean, but okay, I also want to say that this method is not without its drawbacks, because it could also be like we can take this as a army training point of view. Like, let's say you told the cadets that you wanted them to camo off in 1.5 minutes, right? And the approach was to slowly decrease the number. It wouldn't make sense for them to camo on, camo off, camo on, camo off, camo on, camo off 4 times just to meet just so that you can meet a 1 minute timing. Yeah, it's like, I don't know if you get what I mean. It's
wasting time if you don't cut it down immediately down to 1 minute.
Yeah, I mean, not only that, but it's like now we are meeting the timing for the sake of meeting the timing, rather we are redoing for the sake of meeting the timing, rather than redoing because we are incompetent. I don't know if you see the difference. It's quite a subtle difference, but yeah.
Yeah, but I think the army places that added emphasis on the timings because the timings have a part to play in your competence. You know what I mean? True. It's kind of melded together. Especially here in the army. Outside, timings don't matter as long as the competency is there. But over here, it's really just part and parcel.
Okay. Yeah,
everything has to have a timing.
Yeah, I can't get what you mean. Okay, I mean, frame it that way, it seems a bit more reasonable to get them to do it again. Okay, yeah, I mean, I like that. I like that approach, which is to slowly, incrementally decrease or increase the difficulty so that they are, I don't know, eased into the standard.
Yeah. But I think one other thing to note is that when we do this, we don't, like if you see it on a ladder of at the top of the ladder, the optimal lowest timing, fastest timing that they could hit, and they're all the way at the bottom of the ladder. The point to be made is that you don't frame it such that they are at the bottom, but more like the goal is at the top. You know, so it's not so much of and I think the army does this a lot The army frames it as you are shit and you are trash and you are at the bottom. But I think it would maybe in a non-army context especially, it would be a lot better if you frame it as this is something that you can achieve. You know, this is this is something that's been done before and you can definitely go for it if you want to, rather than it being something that you can never achieve at this point in time with your current trash standards. You know, it's about the framing I think that's another thing that as an instructor you got to know.
Yeah. I mean, it's the the way you get them to look at the situation, I guess. I mean, the reason why we make the distinction between army and non-army is because, well, the army is it's to train you on toughness, and so like nobody goes to a seminar to be trained on toughness. Everybody just wants there for the just go there for the knowledge. But in the
Yeah.
army, there's a level of mental fortitude that is required. So I mean, if you can't take this putting down of yourself, this discouragement, yeah, then I would say that army hasn't done its job. Yeah, you need to. I don't know. It's just part of the experience of army, I guess.
It's the army thing lah. It's a way.
The way.
Yeah, it's the army way. No, but I can totally imagine some Inchik coming up to me when I propose this and then telling me, "Sir, that's never going to work. That's rubbish. Just give them the absolute lowest timing possible and watch them go ham. And just watch them try and go and achieve it." But I think this works maybe on, okay, not to sound like that, but maybe on more mature people, because if you give them that lowest timing, right? If they were super mature, then they would own self put increments on their own timings. Like for example, if remember the 5 minute, 1 minute thing, yeah, if you gave me that 1 minute timing, and if I went from 5 minutes, 4:30, 4, 3:30, 3, I wouldn't be so burnt out, and I wouldn't feel like it's an unreasonable timing if I was more mature, So it kind of depends on your audience too. If it is just 18-year-old army kids, 20-year-old army kids, then yeah, sure, you should break it up into increments and do that kind of thing where you encourage them. Whereas if it's probably like, I don't know, commandos or like these kind of guards kind of people, you could really just throw them the timing and it might even work better. To see how they have the freedom to choose how they want to achieve that timing. So I guess it depends on your audience too, or who you're dealing with.
Right. And I think, I mean, it kind of follows this like brute force kind of method that the army likes to implement, which is like I push as hard as I can in a certain direction and hope for the best. Yeah, I don't. I guess one of the benefits that I can see from this is that it's fast. Like it gets results quickly because of the high intensity and level of stress that you are imposed. I mean, you see, if you use the incremental method, right, there is a tendency to take it slow, or at least there is no sense of urgency when it comes to it. It's more like, let me see how I can do it better here. Let me see how I can do it better there. Rather than, oh shit, I gotta do everything I can right now, right this instant, if not I'm gonna die kind of thing. Yeah, so...
Okay, then I think it depends on, as an instructor, what is your aim? If your aim is really for them to see that they have a lot to improve on, like for example, if they deploy the Pista in 1 hour, then I will just tell them like a stupidly low timing, and this will like completely just wake up their idea, versus if they're already at a pretty low timing and I want them to pick on those nitty gritty bits, then okay lah, then I'll give you incremental timings. But I guess it's not just about who you're dealing with, but also about what your aim is.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if the timing is never never something to achieve, then go right ahead and giving an unrealistic timing, because that's not what you're trying to train. Yeah, I think for me, my main takeaway is I would say what we said at the end, which is what you're trying to achieve. Which I guess as a closing remark, a closing, I guess, analysis of how our SAMEX and maybe by extension the entire course was run. I just felt like there was a lack of vision, a lack of direction in terms of what we wanted to see out of them. Yeah, because every week just felt like, let's come here and see how we can whack them, or how we can do the same training but more entertaining, rather than I have these 3 months And every week I want to improve on something, and at the end of the 3 months in the SUMEX, I want to see it culminated into this. And then within the SUMEX itself, what the first mission is intended to achieve, what the second mission is intended to achieve, what we want to see at the end of the day, and how we're going to go about doing that lah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so true. I felt like it was just we need to push them. We just need to push them. But it was just such a one-dimensional push. There wasn't any depth to it. There wasn't any understanding of like how or where, what part. That's true.
Yeah, and in some sense, this mindless pushing means that even where there are areas that they would have met our expectations otherwise, we don't acknowledge it. So there is no like, okay, good job guys, you actually made this timing, so well done, keep it up. Yeah, it was just whack, that kind of thing. Yeah. So I guess takeaway for me is to have an end goal in mind lah, or at least some way of measuring your progress, some metric to at least show that you're on track, or whoever you're guiding is moving in the right direction. And then from there stems your approach, what you do, and how you do it.
Yeah. I think along the same lines for me, I guess it would be to see what am I exactly going for that particular day or that particular week, and also to see who I'm working with. I feel like I could have been a bit more personal with the way that I went about doing things, and not say scolding but criticizing them. Like for example, people who are really really soft, like Jin Yi, or just really really quiet people. It should have been a different approach to, like, compared to people who would just like take shit and be okay with it, like maybe Isaac, who would just like push through no matter what. Yeah, it had to be a different approach, and I definitely didn't do that lah. Should have thought about that. Should have had this conversation a bit earlier lah.
Yeah, just sign on AFTC lah. Then next course we will.
No choice.
You'll be the course commander's next course.
But actually, right, if you think about it, remember how you're thinking, like, with certain things you just want to mindlessly push, you just give a low timing. But that kind of is the whole point sometimes. Like, camo on, camo off, nobody is training competency.
Yeah,
you're just training mindlessly, and it kind of is the whole point of the camo. Is literally just an avenue for them to whack you.
Yeah.
I guess for that, for mindless things, then I think it'd be more valid to give like stupid timings lah. But if it's kind of like system deployment, then okay, it'd be a bit more reasonable.
Sure, you can always argue that in the jungle you need to build a camo all in 1 minute so the enemy doesn't see you.
Don't give me some Hanyong shit, bro.
Yeah, but I get what you mean. Yeah, man.
Okay.
Alright, I think it's fitting to end here. Thanks for spending this 45 minutes with me to just talk through our experience in SUMEX, and wrestle with the idea of unfair criticism. And its effects on people.
That was pretty fun. Thanks, Ben.
No problem. And for whoever is listening, I mean, if you made it this far, thank you for making it this far. And I hope it's been a beneficial conversation for you to hear. If not, I will see you in the next episode of the Extreme Exchange Season 3. Bye-bye.
Bye.